Hey, grade sevens, this is a quick currency review for you. I also encourage you to look at the slides on currency, but this will give you a good explanation of it as well. So I've put down two images right here, and one of them is obviously Canadian money, and one of them is, wow, what just happened? One of them is Canadian money, and one of them is a piece of paper. My apologies on that. Um, so you're probably thinking, why is Miss Vitale putting these two images down? And why are they side by side? Well, I wanted to point something out. Money is just basically printed paper. So why is money way more valuable than printed paper? Okay. Because think about it. This printed paper that I have up here in this area right here is literally printed paper. It's ink on paper. There's the red ink that you usually see, the black ink. So why is it less valuable than this money, which is printed paper as well, with a little bit of a design? So why? Well, basically, the main difference in this is that this money is printed by the government. So it's sanctioned by the government, it's made by the government, and it represents the currency of the country. So that is why this becomes valuable. Okay, so let's think about that. The exchange rate, the rate at which one country's currency can be traded for another country's currency. So interesting, right? Because what does that tell us? It doesn't really tell us a lot, except it does tell us one important thing. And that important thing is traded right there. That's the important word. So when we think about exchange rate, we think about what can we get for one thing for another. And if you've ever made a trade with a friend of yours, let's think about this. What things can be traded? Well, cards can be traded, like hockey cards, or in this case, Pokemon cards. I don't know if you guys even have heard of Pokemon cards, but a lot of them are worth a lot of money. So this Pikachu card is worth right now $87 on eBay. That's what the going rate for this Pikachu card is. I don't actually know what it is, but I thought it was super cute. I like Pikachu, so that's why I chose it. $87 on eBay. So if you are the owner of this really cute Pikachu card, and it is worth $87 plus shipping or whatever, and you're posting it on eBay, and then your friend comes along and your friend says to you know what, we've been friends a long, long time. Let's make a trade. And you're like, cool, I don't mind making a trade. So this person tries to trade you a card that is worth on the market 20 bucks. Okay. Your Pikachu card is worth $87. You're probably not going to feel like trading for their card of, I don't know, name another character for 20 bucks. It's not a fair trade at all, right? You would want to trade for a likewise amount. So you'd want to trade for around the $87 mark to make sure that that trade was fair. Or you would want to trade for with multiples of this card. So maybe he had, you know, I'm just going to make this up. Maybe he had four of cards that were worth $20, and then you would be at least getting $80 of value. Okay. So you're going to try to trade with equal value or above, because or else that Pikachu trade is not going to go well for you, my friend. Okay, think about currency like that, and it becomes a lot easier to understand that some countries' currency, just like this Pikachu card, is worth more than other countries' currencies that are worth less. Okay, so we get that. Some countries have higher currency, some countries have lower currency. But why? What makes it up? Is it just the printing by the government? Well, every country has printing by the government. So it's got to be more than that. Well, the value of a currency depends on factors that affect the economy, such as trade, inflation, employment, interest rates, growth rate, and geopolitical conditions. This is something we touched upon in class, and we had examples of this. And I found it really, really interesting, some of the examples brought to my attention by the students. Things like, how politics plays out. If you can think about back let's say a couple months ago when there was really a time of unrest in the United States of America. And the United States of America has always been one that had a really strong dollar. As we've learned in class, it's the most popular currency in the world. So it's accepted at so many different places in so many different countries. But suddenly there's this like civil unrest in the country. The country is going to be, it's going to be a lot harder for that country to maintain a stronger dollar. So you must have heard that kind of term one time in your lifetime, like this country has a strong dollar. And I picked this image because I thought it was really cute to kind of bring it home. The dollar isn't actually physically strong, as in, it doesn't have muscles, it doesn't go to the gym and hang out. It is physically strong because it reflects these things, okay? The trading, the inflation, the employment, the interest rates, the growth rate, the geopolitical conditions. So if we have a time of unrest or, civil disobedience or war, it's going to affect the strength of that dollar unless they are the country that's winning that war or they are the country that's in the power state. Another good example of this is employment or unemployment. When a country has a very, very high rate of unemployment, they're not producing, they're not exporting, they're not importing as much. It's going to affect a lot of things in the country. And it's going to be weak for a weaker dollar. So these are some of the things that can affect the strength of the dollar and how much these things are going to be traded for. So let's move on up. I'm going to have to actually erase this. Just give me 1 second. Okay, and let's move up. So I've presented two problems here that I thought would be kind of a nice segment into you learning about how to convert currency. So this is the daily rate of $1, what it equals on the USD market. So 1 Canadian dollar equals 0.80 United States dollars. So thinking about that, it means that each Canadian dollar equals 80 cents. And we know it's 80 cents because it's the decimal formation of 80 cents, but also because if it was more than a dollar, we would have 1.8. But it's 0.8, so it's not a dollar. So we do not have an equal trade here. And that is almost always the case against the Canadian dollar against the US dollar. But what I wanted to point out that I found interesting was this was today's rate. So today's rate right here. And today is Wednesday, February 24th when I'm recording this. This is actually a really strong Canadian dollar. The Canadian dollar can buy 80 cents worth of USD dollar. I have seen the currency exchange rate much lower. Like I've seen the Canadian dollar worth a lot less than this. So we're working with a very strong Canadian dollar as well. And this is the time that sometimes people, especially adults who have extra money, they might want to say, you know what? I am going to go ahead and I'm going to purchase some American money at this time. And I am going to wait until the American money um, goes up and Canadian dollar goes down, and then I'm going to trade it back into Canadian money. So they'll make a profit doing that. So I just wanted to point that out, especially for your assignment that will be assigned next, that right now the Canadian dollar is doing really, really well in the market, which means, it could be an illustration of the Canadian versus USD, like political climate, how the USD is being seen. It's really in a part of restoration right now. So, or it could just be the trading. It could be a multitude of factors that we listed below right here. But right now, Canadian dollar is doing nicely. Okay. So that means Snape has $125,000 USD and he wants to convert to Canadian. How much money in Canadian will he receive? Okay. So a really fast way to do this, and you need to really activate your skills in multiplying decimals. So if you aren't familiar or if you don't remember or you don't feel like you're strong enough, refer back to the YouTube channel because one of our first lessons was multiplying decimals. It kind of started off in this unit, and I would really highly suggest you go back and review that if you don't remember how, because you're going to need that foundation for anything to do with the currency exchange. Okay, so I'm going to type this just because it can get really, really, really messy, but I don't want you to not see the problem. So let's bring it down maybe over here. Perfect. Okay, so Snape has $125,000 USD and he wants to convert to Canadian. So Snape is coming to Canada from the US. So we have 125,000 and we multiply it by 1.25. So we are multiplying it by 1.25 because the dollar is worth $1.25 for every dollar. So what I'm saying is the American dollar is worth more. Okay. So we have this amount. And if we think about it, this is actually a good one to use because the math is pretty simplistic on this. But anywho, the answer to this is 156,250. My apologies on my typing. Okay, so we took the 125,000 and we multiplied it by the exchange rate, which is the 1.25, and we got $156,250. Now we need to be very careful when answering these questions because we always need to write down the unit of currency. And for this, it's Canadian dollars because remember, he's going from USD to Canadian. So let's go back and just examine this one more time. We chose 125,000 because he has 125,000 Canadian, okay? I mean USD, my apologies. So that's why we picked 125,000 as our first number. And we multiplied it by 1.25 because that's how much the exchange rate is in this image. So 1.25, ooh, I don't like it doing that. It equals $156,250 Canadian. So that's how much Canadian Snape is going to receive. Okay, let's go to another one. Snape has 125,000 Canadian that he wants to convert to USD. How much money in USD will he receive? Again, same kind of principle. You're looking at how much money does he have in one currency, the exchange rate over here, which is the 80 cents, okay? And we're going to go ahead and do the math again. So, oops, sorry, you guys aren't going to be able to see that. My apologies. Bring it down here. So 125,000 Canadian times 0.80. Okay. And we're just using, again, the same information that we have up on the top right of my screen to compute this. Okay, we're always looking at the exchange rate. So we're looking at $100,000. Okay, so we have $100,000. And again, we have to remember the currency unit, which is USD. So Snape will receive $100,000 USD. And it makes sense because if we're going from Canadian to USD, because of the exchange rate, because of the Canadian dollar being equated to less, we would walk away with less money in USD than in Canadian. And again, down here, when Snape is coming to, don't know why that's doing that. When Snape is coming to Canadian dollars from the US or from US to Canadian, so then he is going to end up with more because his dollar, the US dollar, is worth more than the Canadian dollar. So he's going to end up with more money. So I hope that that helps you out. Again, we always have the drop-in math programs after school that you should utilize if you're still feeling confused. And feel free to send any questions my way. Have a great night, guys.